His maiden test match century. Loves playing against Pakistan, whatever the format, but he's batted beautifully.
Let's get ready to rumble!
It's a pleasure today to welcome one of England's most successful opening batters in recent years. He averages 43 in Test match cricket and has 3 T20 county championships to his name. It's cricketing hero Benjamin Duckett.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for your time today, Ben. How are you and what are you up to at the minute?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm pretty busy, I'm not going to lie. I kind of straight into the 100 ball competition from the Ashes, so didn't really get much time to reflect on it and time away from it, but that's kind of the cricketing world right now. It's pretty hectic, so and then I've got to go to Newcastle on Sunday for the England T20 series, so just one more push this month and then I get a nice little break.
It seems as though the 100 has really generated a lot of interest this year, but on a more personal note, how has your move been away from the Welsh Fire to the Birmingham Phoenix?
Well, slightly better because we won a couple of games as opposed to last year where I didn't win a game, but it's not really the comp we wanted. We feel like we probably have one of the strongest teams in the competition. I think we showed that last night. And then for me, it's just been a slightly different one for me. I found it really hard kind of coming down from an Ashes series and going straight into another competition. So it's been trying to find ways to kind of switch myself on, when I get to the ground. And I kind of scored runs in basically every game. I just didn't go on and get a good score, which has been the only difference from last year. But I felt in good nick. I just kind of didn't get those match-winning performances.
With all our guests, we like to take it back to where it all began. And I believe it all began for you at Stokes School, where by all accounts you were an absolute angel. So if you could please elaborate for us a little bit on your time there.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly had a lot of fun there. I was probably one of those kids who kind of decided I wanted to be a professional cricketer at quite a young age, and standard school teachers telling me, it's probably not going to work out. I need to work harder in lessons, and I was just adamant, that I was going to play cricket. So I probably wasn't the best behaved kid at school. I enjoyed my years there. It was a great time, and for me, really, it was about enjoying sport. The facilities there are great. One of the probably prettiest cricket pitches in the country. I was fortunate to bat on, which was an absolute road. So it was a really good time.
You're playing with Northants, you're playing with the England Lions, and then quickly find yourself at T20 Finals day. Talk to us a little bit about that, especially with yourself only being 18 years old at the time.
I think it was Carl Kurtz had picked up an injury, so I was kind of told, probably an hour before the final that I was gonna play. So I was buzzing. I kind of messaged my mum and sisters, I think, who were there, saying, I'm playing. An incredible start really to my career. I didn't actually do anything in the game. I took one catch. We smacked 190 for 2 or something. But just kind of experiencing playing in front of 25,000, loads of drunk people, it was a completely different environment to I'd ever played cricket in before. Can you just give me 2 seconds? I just got a food delivery and my missus has asked for the code. It was nothing naughty. It was only a few bought it. There you go.
What sort of online shopper are you?
I'm not fussed, to be honest. I think that was from the co-op, actually. Just the quickest one.
Moving on to 2016 in what a lot of people would refer to as your breakout year. Top scoring, 282 red, averaging 130, another T20 county championship with Northants. All of that resulted in your first call-up for England's winter tours of India and Bangladesh. Can you talk to us a little bit about that first call-up? And I'm guessing that was a massive day in the Duckett household.
Yeah, it was crazy actually, because I don't know, I feel like when players have a breakthrough year, they're kind of spoken about, all the way through. Whereas I was kind of scoring runs, but I wasn't really, knocking down the door. I mean, I got picked in the Lions obviously that summer and had a very good series. But I wasn't expecting to get picked for England. So I mean, that season was just crazy, actually. I won't score as many runs in the rest of my career as I did that summer. It was just one of those ones where no one really knew about me. I was just a young kid who was playing loads of shots and stuff, and it felt like everything kind of went my way that summer. But yeah, I still remember the call now. I was with all the Northants boys. We were actually having like a team curry, and I kind of got a call from James Whitaker at the time, the selector, and I had to pop outside. And he obviously told me I was in both squads. So I went back in and told the head coach that look, I've been picked. Obviously, he's been my coach for 10 years leading up to that, so it was a special moment for both of us. And I said don't tell anyone because it's obviously being released tomorrow. And about 2 minutes later, he made a toast in front of about 20 players saying Ducky's been picked for England. So I said, well, thanks, but just keep that down for the next 24 hours.
And then specifically on those tours of India and Bangladesh, I believe it was Morgan and Hales who didn't travel with the rest of the squad. So how was that received? And were any other players sceptical about travelling to the subcontinent at the time?
Yeah, there probably was. I was just, kind of not involved in those conversations. I was a young lad and playing with a lot of people that I'd never played before. So, if those two would have gone, I probably wouldn't have got my opportunity then. So, they're the things that you have to kind of take. But yeah, there was loads of discussions about it. But to be honest, in those countries when those things are going on, you're so well looked after. Police they go completely overboard, and you actually feel so incredibly safe. So, it was just one of those ones where thankfully two of the best players dropped out, and it gave me an opportunity. Those conditions are so alien. No county cricket prepares you to go to India. So it wasn't that I felt like I wasn't ready for Test cricket, even though looking back, I definitely wasn't. It was more the fact it was a tough stint, for a young guy who, going out there for the first time. I was actually, when I got dropped, almost relieved. I was like, I can't do anything wrong now. I can just relax, get through the end of this month, go back home for Christmas. And, one of the best bowlers ever had my number. And, Ashwin he's so difficult, so hard, especially for left-handers. And I actually said, like, if I ever face him again, he's going to get me out again. And I've probably got that challenge coming up in January. So it'll be really interesting. I certainly won't be getting out to him as many times playing a forward defence.
And then if we fast forward a year, England are touring Australia for the Ashes. You're also touring Australia with the England Lions. And you seem to cause a bit of a stir in the media in terms of an incident that happened with Jimmy Anderson.
Yeah, look, it was the most difficult time of my career and life. It's a difficult one because I've got the full facts. I know the whole story that no one in the media knows about. No one who had their judgment kind of knows about, and I've always kept quiet about it because at the time, there were different people in charge in the ECB, so I'm a little bit less hesitant now about saying it. But I got treated so badly by the ECB. All this stuff. It didn't get leaked by the media. The media weren't in that bar. It didn't get to the news all over Australia because some randomer told the media. It was leaked by the ECB. I know it was, which was really difficult for me. I just felt like, I certainly wasn't an angel in my lifetime and my previous times. I loved having a beer with the lads. I was always there. But I felt really disappointed that, such a young guy across the world in Australia, I basically spent the next 7 days in my hotel room whilst lads were training and playing. And I feel like nowadays, even only a few years on, you'd probably get treated differently with kind of mental health and stuff, and looking after someone for a situation that was genuinely nothing. The reason why it happened was because me and Jimmy had actually a good relationship from the England Test tour. So people obviously think, I've just been a young idiot, gone over, thrown a beer, which, it was a vodka lemonade. So, that's just media making up a drink. They don't even know the facts of it. And look, I'll just say it was completely 50-50 with me and Jimmy. There was nothing malicious. It was basically any lads just, taking a piss in a nightclub, having a good time, which I completely understand. Your high-profile cricketers, well, I wasn't, but Jimmy was, and I get that you can't just be a normal lad. But if I told the whole story, not one lad, I reckon, in the world would say that I was in the wrong or was acting like an idiot. So, yeah, it was really tough, and it probably made me grow up quite quick. Having to deal with that and overcome it by myself, really, in Australia, across the world. Um, that was the hardest thing, and I kind of knew from there, like, gee, like, I basically got banned by the ECB for a year. They slapped all the punishments on me, and I was like, I've hardly done anything wrong here. So yeah, it was a really tough time in my career.
Do you feel as though you were used as a scapegoat for England's shortcomings in that series? I mean, they had just been beaten 4-0, and this incident sort of drew away from the actual cricket itself.
Yeah, 100%. And that was kind of the times of England cricket at the time. It was all about fitness. It was all about, getting battering the team and stuff after losses and stuff. And the positive side of this story that I flip it onto now is that's why England have been so good over the past 12 months. It's a carefree environment. We celebrate after a game, we have beers, that's totally acceptable. Whereas it went for a period for years where you couldn't do that. There were obviously curfews, players were, and we've been going out this summer after Ashes games and, having a great time, and there's been none of that in the media. People are totally accepting that a bunch of lads are allowed to go and enjoy themselves after winning a game without it, having to break out into the media. So, as I said, I understand high-profile sportsmen can't necessarily just act like, lads do on a Saturday night, but there is times, and it's such a tough environment to be in, especially playing kind of 5 days of Test match cricket. You want to go and let your hair down and enjoy, more importantly, enjoy each other's success and the team's success.
What is the protocol with you boys going out after games? Do you have to book kind of private spaces and that kind of thing, or do you just blend in with the rest of the crowd?
We're not massive like footballers where the whole world, kind of know you. Like you obviously, when you've got 12, 13 blokes, people are going to know a couple of people, then they'd come and speak to me maybe and stuff like that. But yeah, there's always a security guard there, so nothing's going to kick off, or if people get too close or something, or bothering Stokesy, because he's one of the biggest names in the country at the minute, isn't he? So in that side of things, but generally you don't really have any issues. Lads just want to come up to you and say well done, or unlucky, or that kind of thing, and generally, yeah, we'll have a table. Which I don't remember contributing to, so I think Stokesy sorted the lads out there most of the time. So yeah, generally we're just sat around a table, just enjoying each other's success. Sometimes the girlfriends' wives come out with us. It's just a good environment.
And what are the rules and regulations in terms of bringing your girlfriends out with you? Because I'm guessing you're not going to want to be the only guy there with your missus when you're out with the rest of the boys.
Like, actually in Headingley, my girlfriend was the only one who stayed that game, and I took her out and we had a great evening. But they've got a really good group, all the girlfriends, and they get on really well. So, they have a great time each day, in a box, drinking away all day. I don't know how much cricket they watch.
I have always thought it's pretty ideal for a girl to be shacked up with an international cricketer. I mean, you're travelling the world, touring the colonies, the West Indies, Australia, Sri Lanka, India, New Zealand, South Africa. I mean, the list goes on. It's unbelievable. But I did want to pull you up on your Instagram, which your missus seems to be sponsoring.
Yeah. All jokes aside, and she's actually been great for me in the last couple of years for cricket, because I've found a way to get away from it. I found when I was single and I was just by myself, I'd just go back to the room and I'd just be like lying there thinking about what a bad day I'd had, or over-analysing the game and stuff, and there was no kind of getting away from it. Whereas now it's like at the end of the Test match day, it's great. Like, I'll come back, we'll go out for dinner or something. Like, I can't just sit there and think about cricket or like watch the day's highlights or something, because there's no chance of that happening.
Do you ever stick on the highlights when you're back in your hotel room with your missus, you know, just as a gentle reminder that you are opening the batting in Test cricket for England?
I'd be lying if I said if I was by myself, I might stick on it. If I had a good day, I might stick on and see how it comes out.
Now, Ben, I'm going to take you back to the start of lockdown where you seem to make some dramatic changes to your lifestyle, shown by a completely new rig coming out on the other side of lockdown. Was that one of the best decisions you've made in your professional career so far?
Weirdly, COVID was the best thing that happened to me. My career was it was going okay. Like I was doing all right, but I wasn't tearing things up. And to be honest, if COVID hadn't have happened, I don't know, maybe things would have been similar. But I had an opportunity to get myself the fittest I've ever been. And I kind of it made me forget how much I loved playing cricket. That period away from it, and more the physical aspect. But I'm nowhere near as fit as I was then. Like cricket's it's such a tough sport, I find, in the summer because you don't really get many days off. So it's really difficult when you're playing so much to go running or do. Then I had nothing to do. People were kind of working at home and stuff, and I basically was kind of still being paid to sit at home, and I was like, why don't I make the most of this? And I just went all out fitness, and I loved it. It was great, but as I said, that was all I could do. So I've actually in my new house here, I've had a paid and installed a gym in there. So I'm trying to give myself no excuses to get down there, and so I've had it for 4 days, and I've had 4 gym sessions. So I need to keep going with it.
You've got the built-in gym, the in-house bar. I guess the two things are working well hand in hand.
Down here we got the bar, so I can go in the gym, have a good session, then come in here for a beer.
And what is that gym routine looking like at the moment?
So honestly, and I probably shouldn't be admitting this, but I haven't really been to the gym since the start of the Ashes. I felt so mentally and physically drained. And to be honest, when you're playing all the time, that's fine because you're still busy. As I said, I'm playing most days, but generally in the summer it'll be, I'm not the best person to be talking about this. I've never been the fittest bloke. I've never had a regime all the time, and for me, it's more getting in there. So I like to just kind of feel good kind of gym. Beach weights, that kind of stuff. I've got a squatting rack in there, so I'll squat. But yeah, it's pretty. It's there's no structure to it. I just feel like if I get in there and get it done, I got on the watt bike this morning, so that's a start.
And then 1,000 runs at an average of 72 resulted in you getting a call-up for England's winter tour to Pakistan late last year and your first call-up since India in 2016. Can you talk to us a little bit about the differences coming into the side this time round under a new captain, under new management, as opposed to the previous time you played in the England squad?
Yeah, I'll be totally honest. 12 months ago, I was kind of like, my England Test career's done. There's no chance I'm going to play again. I nearly put my cap in a frame. Honestly, I was like, there's no way back in. And then kind of the start of last summer when they started playing this new way, I was like, why? That's basically how I played 2016 when I got picked. It was, see ball, hit ball kind of mentality. If a spinner comes on, I'm going to try and belt him. And I kind of went away from that for a few years because I believed that Test match opening batters had to bat a certain way, and that's never how I've played. And last year was the first time I kind of gone and done it and try to put pressure on the bowlers, and funnily enough, it went well for me. So yeah, to kind of get that call to go to Pakistan, at first I was kind of thinking, oh, here we go again. I've been picked, so I'm going to the subcontinent. It's going to be tough work, but thankfully those pitches were flat as anything and great to bat on. But yeah, this environment is perfect for me. If it was under a different coach and under a different captain at a different time, it might be completely different, and I probably wouldn't have had the success I've had since I've joined. So they've got the best out of me, and it's by far the best group of players I've ever been a part of, and management. Honestly, I can't speak more highly of that England setup right now. It's the most relaxed environment I've been in. You can literally do whatever you want as long as you're giving your all to the team. And obviously, you know, you need to be performing, but the faith that, like, they said to me before that first test match, they said, you're going to get a run, like, you're going to get a few games, don't worry about it. And that was the first time I'd ever played for England and someone said that to me. Like, normally it's, if you have a couple of bad games, you're probably dropped. Whereas they basically were like, you're probably going to get the whole winter. So straight away I walked out that next day with all pressure off me. Right, just go out and do as best you can.
And just before we get onto your exploits on that Pakistan tour, I wanted to ask you about an incident leading up to that first test in Rawalpindi, where there was an assassination attempt on the Prime Minister at the time, Imran Khan, and how that may have affected the squad.
No, not overly. Like, I mean, obviously those things can happen over in you know, different countries, and for us it was like, we're over here, you know, we're just getting ready to play. You know, it's kind of one of those things that you can't really get too caught up in. You know, the biggest thing for us was we all, you know, as we just saw you running to the loo there, that was what we were doing in the days building up to that first test match. That's the biggest worry really in the subcontinent, is getting a bit of a dicky belly and being struggling. And we basically had our whole team down, you know, in the 2 days building up to that first test, and actually nearly got delayed a day because of it, which was quite a start to the tour.
And then day one, Rawalpindi, you're on 96, you tuck the ball to backward square leg, there's a misfield on the boundary, and just like that, you've got your first Test 100 for England, accompanied with the most composed first Test 100 celebration I think anyone's ever seen. Can you talk us through your emotions a little bit there?
Yeah, I don't know. Every time I get 100, it's a sense of relief, you know, that you've got there. And yeah, I never go too big. Like, it always goes through my head, like, what am I going to do? And I genuinely don't know. Like, if I'd have got 100 in that second test at Lords against Australia, I don't know what I'd have done. I might have done the same thing. I might have gone ballistic because it was a different occasion. But that Pakistan one, as I said, like, I was genuinely so ill the days building up to it. I reckon that night I'd had 2 hours sleep, and I was honestly like, there's no chance here. I had no energy, and that day's probably one of the best days of English cricket history ever. What we did as a team, and the whole of it's a blur for me, just because I was so knackered, I was exhausted, I wasn't feeling too good, and that celebration, I think, was genuine. Like, oh my God, like, what has happened? I'm so relieved. Like, I didn't ever think this day was going to happen. All those emotions into one, and I'm not going to lie, I reckon I left 150 runs on that pitch. Like, I should have gone a massive. If that was tomorrow and I was 100 not out on that pitch, I'd have carried on batting for hours. But when I got to 100, I was just like, right, I'm going to try and hit every ball for four now, which I never do. Like, normally I get quite big scores, because if I get to 100, I'm like, right, start again, knock it around, try and bat for as long as you can. But I just put everything into kind of getting to 100, and I was just so kind of drained and exhausted. So yeah, that was probably why that celebration was kind of just like, wow, like, you know, what's happened here.
And you don't like to leave many balls either. I saw that you've left 8 balls in your last 6 test matches. Is that factual?
Yeah, and I reckon I left like 2 in the whole of the Ashes, so that's probably not gone down, not gone up much. That's just, as I said, like, I'm not a conventional opener. I do things differently, and that was why I believed that I watched Alistair Cook opening all the time, and I was like, well, I can't do that. That's physics. Whereas now in this team, it's kind of a joke, and they'll bring up those stats, and you kind of get a round of applause for them and stuff. Like, things like that, and being different is what this team wants. That's just always the way I've been. You know, I started my professional career batting in the middle order, so you don't necessarily have to leave as many balls. And I don't know why it is. I want to hit the ball as soon as I see it, which is why I nick off a lot.
No, I mean, it's fantastic. It's what everyone wants to see when they come to watch. Not you nicking off, of course, but yeah, players hitting the ball. Now, I think it's important we get onto the actual Ashes itself. But before we talk about the cricket side of things, I'd like to ask you a little bit more about some of these squad photos that come out just before the games. And as a short king yourself, how you've ended up positioning yourself in between two of the tallest guys to ever play for England. Is that a coincidence? Is it intentional?
It started in New Zealand where I was walking to go and get in line, and Brookie, I get on with very well. I don't know who, it might have been Broady and Zach, and Brookie like waited for me to go and then made me go in the middle. And I don't think many people realised too much then, but then when we came back to England, I just did it every game. Like, I was in control of it. I chose to do it. And it was so funny because every single game, like the Barmy Army were tweeting, media were tweeting, like random people were tweeting, like, oh, poor Ben Duckett. And I was thinking, surely by now you know that it's on purpose. Like, I don't just luckily stand in between the two tallest blokes. And I took the mick out of myself because, you know, everyone else was calling me so small and a midget. So, like, I thought I'd just get in there before anyone else does, and kind of made a joke about it. And obviously I put it on my Instagram after maybe the first test of the Ashes, where I cropped out like my face, so it was just my forehead, and then there you could see their heads and then just my forehead. So yeah, I just thought I'd get in there before everyone else does.
Moving on to the actual cricket itself, you guys narrowly lost the first test match at Edgbaston. And then Lords was perhaps your breakout test match in England, scoring 98 and 83 respectively. How did it feel to get those runs under your belt so early on in the series?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's one of those things where I could have got 200s in an Ashes test, which at Lords, which would have been incredible. But I think that was the game when I was like, okay, like the way that I play, I can do this. Like, I've basically done it against the best bowling attack in the world in the hardest conditions to face seam. So it was just huge for me, like as a confidence boost. Like, because obviously the first test, you know, I got 10 and 20, and then if I go and get another two low ones in the next test, you know, you're going into the third test going, Christ, like, can I do it against these bowlers? But just to kind of get that out of the way and score runs. And yeah, I didn't go and score massive runs that series, but you know, even the 240s at the Oval and the way I did it, yeah, just kind of, you know, relieved to be able to, because I think there was a lot of talk around me before that series. I think I'd obviously, you know, even though I got a few in New Zealand, there was a lot of talk, I think, about can I do it against bowlers of that quality? And actually, like, as an opener, you know, 300 runs, averaging 35 in an Ashes, I'd take that every day of the week. But because Zach and Usman had such an incredible series, it was kind of like I had an average series. But yeah, if you'd have said to me at the start of the Ashes series, you'll average 35, you know, a couple of good scores, I'd have probably taken it.
And then in terms of you getting dismissed on 98 at Lords, once again, pretty similar to the time you did score 100 in Pakistan, a complete poker face walking off. I'm just wondering, is there anything building there for when you get into the changing rooms? Do you like to kind of smash up the changing rooms a little bit, or do you stay pretty calm throughout?
Well, I mean, it's always different. Like, I was just gutted. Like, I'd done so much hard work that day to get to where I was. But it was so difficult, you know, they were relentlessly going bumpers, 6'5" blokes bowling 90 mile an hour. It was incredibly tough. Yeah, and I was 2 runs off an Ashes 100. It was, you know, that is something that I might not get the opportunity to do again. Who knows? So, but then on the other side, you obviously are deep inside, buzzing, and you're happy. Like, I've got 98 at Lords here, standing ovation. But yeah, it's always different, you know. Sometimes I get angry, and sometimes it's just like, oh, okay, move on, you know, next inning. So yeah, it's always different. But I think I was very proud. I was just so gutted that I was so close to that, you know, potentially getting on the honours board again at Lords against Australia.
And then with yourself being in the dressing room at the time, I wanted to ask you a little bit about the incident that took place with Carey stumping Johnny Bairstow. What was the team's reaction like watching on? And also, what was Bairstow's reaction walking back into the dressing room? Because I can't imagine he was too happy.
But it was weird because I actually kind of missed it, and then watched the replay, and I was like, oh, that looks a bit lazy, or like I don't know what's gone on there. But then you watch the build up, and like he does the same thing every single ball. Like, and he even tapped his bat in before he left. So look, I mean, they're well within their rights to go and do that. And the biggest thing for me is that it showed how like afraid they were of us, that they had to do that to, try and win the game. It happens in cricket. It's obviously disappointing, and it wasn't like he just kind of missed the ball and then just walked straight out. Like, he did tap his bat in before, but rules are rules, and they're entitled to do what they want to do. Like, Alex Carey is one of the nicest blokes in the world, and I think it showed actually how much it affected him in the couple of test matches after. He didn't keep as well, he didn't bat as well. But yeah, it's just one of those things. I think it was bigger in the media and certainly in the crowd than it was in the dressing room. We were, there was no one throwing stuff around, and Johnny just came back in and was looking at Brendan McCullum going, did I do anything wrong? Or, like, kind of, Johnny, I think it needed that, like, don't worry, mate, like, it's happened now. What can you do after that? It was, and it actually fired Stokesy up at the other end, and then he went in to play one of the best innings ever. So, yeah, it's disappointing because, if Johnny bats with Stokesy for an hour there, it could be, we could get over the line, but yeah, it is what it is.
Going on to a must-win test match at Headingley with Moeen, Wokes and Wood all coming into the side, thankfully all playing a massive part to help win that test match. But what was the pressure like on the team, knowing that in just 3 test matches, the Ashes, a home series, could be over?
I think the reason why we did what we did in the next 3 games is because there was genuinely no pressure in the dressing room. We just went out there and prepared the same way we did for every game, went out and played the exact same way we did. And as you said, the guys who came in had a massive impact. Obviously Woody, with his pace, just kind of, didn't take loads of wickets, but the wickets he took were so important. An incredible game to be a part of, really, to go right down to the wire, to keep the series alive. And I mean, when we were 2-0 down, we genuinely believed we could win the series. We of course we could have done, but to then go to 2-1, wrestle a bit of momentum, we were like, yeah, 100%, we can go and do this, win the next 2.
And then moving on to Manchester at Old Trafford, where the rain came down pretty relentlessly, essentially costing England victory there, which was a massive shame for the series. And then finally, the Oval, a massive opportunity to level the series, and also Stuart Broads' last test match for England. I'm guessing that's something that you'll always remember, playing in his final test match.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the biggest thing was that the northern rain ruined it, didn't it? That would have been, I think, the all-time great series ever, coming back from 2-0 down to win 3-2. 100%. I mean, I play with Broadie at Notts as well, so I've played plenty of cricket with him, and we actually didn't have any idea he was going to. He genuinely just decided one evening. But like, what a career, and I think he showed why he's been so good over the years in that last spell that he bowled. And to hit a 6, off his last ball, and to take a wicket off his last ball, it just sums up Broadie, really. It was an incredible finish to a great series and a great career for him.
And one more thing that I wanted to ask you about was reports from the Australian team and Australian media that post-Ashes drinks have been snubbed by England after the final test at the Oval. Can you provide any further detail on that?
Yeah, I think they do like to whinge a bit, don't they, those Aussies? I've seen a bit after the series, and it's a little bit like, get over it now. But yeah, I mean, we wanted to have a few beers with them in the dressing room, but we had, our physio was leaving, and obviously one of the greatest blokes ever to play the game, and it was really important that we celebrated together that those two were moving on. And just things happen, like you have a few drinks and suddenly time flies. And yeah, I think probably for us, sending Broadie off in style was more important as a team than having a beer with the Aussies after. And it all worked out fine. I think it was planned, but we went out after and met them after for a few drinks. So yeah, I don't think it matters where you have a drink with them. But yeah, we made sure we saw them later on that evening.
I do also have to ask you about your time playing with the universe boss, Sir Christopher Henry Gayle, during your stint in the Abu Dhabi T10 League.
It was during the COVID times, but that was the best thing, because if it wasn't COVID, we wouldn't have seen Gayle. He would have been off in his penthouse somewhere having parties. You know, he wouldn't have spent any time. But because it was COVID, we were obviously locked in a hotel. So we were managing to just like drink beers with Chris Gayle after every game in the team room, which was incredible. Like he was such a good man. He was every single night. He'd have been in there, you know, after every game till 4 a.m. Spending time with the lads. Yeah, it was incredible. The one memory I've got is because he's obviously got a couple of songs out, hasn't he? And we were playing one of his songs, and him and Joe Clark were singing it together, and it was unbelievable. You know, like as I said, we wouldn't have seen him outside of cricket if it wasn't for the restrictions. So that was probably another time of the restrictions actually being good for me.
And is playing in the Indian Premier League, the IPL, something that you'd like to do in the future? I know that you withdrew yourself from the auction this year to focus on your Test career with England and the Ashes, but is that something that you could see yourself doing going forward?
Yeah, I'd love to. You know, I'm actually glad that I didn't go, even if I did get picked up, because I'd have been so exhausted by now. But it's something that you know, I really want to do, and it's such a hard competition to get picked up in, especially just as a batsman. But yeah, I feel like there are conditions in that competition that would potentially suit me, like lots of spin, good pitches. Yeah, and I'd love to go out there and experience some like time with some of the players out there and kind of learn from them. Yeah, so we'll see. Actually, I haven't really thought about it for this year. Obviously, we're going to have a couple of months in India in January anyway. So, yeah, it's 100% a competition that I want to be a part of.
Ben, I'm going to finish off by asking you a few rapid fire questions. So to start off, who is the toughest bowler you have faced in your career to date?
Pat Cummins.
Who is the best batter you have played against in your career so far?
I mean, the best batter I've ever played against for me is Steve Smith. You know, he didn't score bucket loads, did he? But geez, he's got so much time.
And finally, Barkrul, yourself and 3 other cricketers, dead or alive, who are you taking?
Dead or alive? I put Joe Root in there because I don't know if but he's great value on the beers. So he'd be number one. Chris Gayle. And at the minute, one of my good mates, Harry Brook.
Thanks a lot for coming on, Ben. It's been fantastic, and I really appreciate your time.
No, cheers. Thanks, guys. I've enjoyed it.